Hey, welcome to another episode of Subscription Radio. Today, my special guest is William Hicks. William's the president and co-founder of MagicMind, as well as a co-founder of Brahmi, which is another D2C brand, but isn't just D2C. Part of what I'm excited about getting William on the episode today is both his experience and success growing multiple D2C and businesses, as well as even his experience coming from the finance side, which he'll joke that he did for a year but it felt like 6. So I think part of what can be cool that we can dig into in this episode is beyond just the subscription experience in the consumer side, is as a brand and an operator, how to go about thinking about your working cash flow and just based off of William's experience growing both of these brands. William, thanks for coming on the show, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ben. It's been good getting to know you these past few months, and I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. Well, so before we jump into things, you want to give sort of like an abbreviated sort of synopsis of just, I'd say, like your career and sort of the different roles and hats that you've had, because I know you've been a founder, as you mentioned, you also started off in finance for a second.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I started off, I've always kind of been a generalist in life. I always have enjoyed learning new things. I'm probably not an expert in any one hobby, but I'd love to have many, and that's true with my skill set as well. So I was a liberal arts guy at Princeton and had no marketable skills for that expensive tuition, but had a good time and learned a lot. And fortunately, I landed a great job at Barclays in their investment banking group. And so that gave me some quantitative skills that I really needed and was craving. But I was not necessarily craving the work-life balance that it gave me, or I really just didn't have a passion for it. So I quickly drifted into the world of consumer packaged goods, and I've been making a home here for the past 7 years, starting as a co-founder of a company called Brahmi Snacks. It's an Italian-American food company, really bringing the delicious, indulgent Italian food we all know and love to America, but in a healthy way, using the super power of the lupini bean. And for the last little over a year, I've been the president and co-founder at MagicMind, which is a 2-ounce shot designed to give you 7 hours of creative, productive flow state. So that's my brief path. I'm happy to go into any more of that.
Yeah, and I was joking that I love the product placement in the background. Hard to miss. And also, like, and I think I don't remember if you guys originally had launched in Product Hunt. I think that's how I originally had found out about you. But I was an early subscriber to MagicMind, and part of what was awesome was like the consumer experience of like getting the box, opening it up, like your branding. Just everything about, I'd say, the consumer experience, like for me, was like spot on. So,
thank you. Yeah, we worked really hard at that.
Yeah.
We had our branding agency actually help us with our packaging. So they weren't, their background wasn't in packaging design, which brought a kind of interesting lens to the project. But they did a phenomenal job, and that's one thing we really nailed out of the gates. The flavor probably wasn't something we nailed out of the gates. We've been iterating and continued to. So thank you for trying in the early days, but we got to get you some new product because it's about 10x better from that
awesome
taste where it was.
Well, I do remember, I think I even told you this like in an earlier conversation we had was there was like one shipment I got where, and I think you guys had sent an announcement saying that the flavor profile changed a bit, but when I drank it, I was like, ooh, this is different. To be fair, I actually had gotten accustomed and almost like trained to enjoy the original taste. It was somewhat bitter, and I was like, I felt like medicine a bit. That's
an interesting. It's an interesting challenge for us, honestly, because we are continually trying to improve the product, and some of that comes with changes to taste. I currently took about an hour and a half ago, and I'm very locked in on some R&D product that we're working on that's kind of a leaps and bounds improvement from where we're at even. And it's difficult with subscription being the primary focus of the business to consider these changes that will really change the experience for our customers, and always laddering up to the best possible products that we'll ever have, and that's the goal. But along the way, people do get used to it, and it is a concern of mine, even if the product benefits are 40%, 50% greater in a reformulation. Do we lose people just because they say, hey, this isn't the product that I subscribe to? This isn't what I've been taking for the last 6 months. So that is a constant thought for us, and it's a unique challenge for our brand, but for all subscription brands, really.
Yeah, no. And can you tell us a little bit, just like quantitatively, where Magic Mind is today? You guys launched about 2 years ago. Can you talk a little bit around just like the growth and where you guys are today, and like any of those plateaus and lessons learned?
Sure. Yeah, we're at about 6,000 monthly subscribers after launching 2 years ago, and the growth has been pretty steady. Honestly, there was probably the biggest plateau happened about a year ago in the wake of iOS 14, which I'm sure a lot of brands went through, pausing spend, kind of reassessing strategy. But we launched a little over 2 years ago in March of 2020, and had always intended the product to be positioned as a D2C product, as well as something we sell to businesses. It's really good product market fit for any office that has a budget for anything beyond coffee or any snacks and things like that. But obviously, March of 2020 was horrible timing for selling into offices. So we went full steam ahead in D2C and really built a business with largely behind paid ad spend on Facebook and Instagram. So that gave us our first year of growth, pretty consistent through the first year. A lot of learnings along the way. We changed the way we were positioning the product. We started with these little 3-pack samples as a trial offering, and that transitioned to a subscription. We then pivoted towards just a regular old, buy your 15 and 30 packs and get it monthly, which has proven to be better for both us and customers. But then, kind of plateaued for a bit in spring of last year, and really pulled back our growth spend and had to assess where the future of our growth was going to come from in the wake of iOS causing the algorithm to shift and not find us our customers as easily, and costs rising as a result. But in July of last year, we made a strategic decision. We can't be fully reliant on Facebook. We need to diversify into other growth channels. And so we aggressively did that with largely focusing on affiliate partnerships on podcasts, YouTube, newsletters, things like that, in addition to kind of starting to explore TikTok and redoubling down on SEO and our own newsletter and things like that. But the interesting part I wanted to mention is we kind of one of the strengths of the company is in our model. We have a very well built out interactive model, and we're kind of looking at everything, and we were able to see that, okay, our cost of acquisition is going to be higher in this new world of iOS 14, but what does success look like in this regard? Like how does it all funnel down into cash flow, and what's the best cash position we can be in 6 months, in 12 months, in 18 months, given these increased costs? And the math said, and the model said, you actually have to go and accept this higher CAC. You have to acquire these customers. You have to build that subscriber base to the point where you're able to cover your overhead with your recurring customer revenue, and more, and then some, to fund your new growth. So we made a strategic decision in July of last year to really put the foot back on the gas and just take the hit on increased CAC, and we kind of resumed our growth curve from there, and that's where we are today, just continuing that strategy in a lot of ways while diversifying our growth spend.
I'm curious, like with the iOS, I'm sure you guys considered this, but did you explore increasing prices? And have you tested that?
We did, and we actually have in the last few months, in response to our cost of acquisition, but also just to rising supply chain costs.
Right.
So we increased the pricing of our one-time purchase options, and the kind of third reason we did that was try to funnel more and more into subscription. And this model, and a kind of simplified version I created to toggle with different assumptions and inputs, really said that if we can get from say 50% of our first-time customers coming in as subscribers to 70% to 80%, maybe what would it look like at 100%? and it's truly it truly blew me away that was the most important thing to what cost of acquisition can we afford, more so than the dynamics of growth rates and payment terms that affect your working capital, more so than retention rates to a large degree. Looking at kind of the ways we can boost our curve by 20% even. The effect of getting first-time customers in as subscribers was even more important than all those things. So kind of everything we do is at the very North Star is like, how do we treat our subscribers amazingly and give them the best experience possible? But as a business, from a business perspective, how can we drive our subscriber number higher every day, every month? And that's really been the story of the business.
Well, I'm curious. I'd like to dig in a little bit on that, because I think one of the unusual things around e-commerce and D2C is that, we're talking about like acquiring customers as a subscriber from day one. I mean, obviously a lot of brands, if not, like there are brands who only offer subscriptions, they don't even offer the one-time purchase. But what's interesting is it's getting someone to subscribe before they've actually experienced the product, right? And to what extent do you actually treat that as a subscriber, just at least internally, right? Because it's really on the like first or second renewal where like, okay, they've experienced the product. Do they want to replenish? Like, how do you guys differentiate or think about that a little bit differently? And then to get people to subscribe before they've even experienced the product, like how have you approached that? And has that been a challenge? Is it that you think people are taking it for the discount? I know that's one challenge with some brands is they have people who like they subscribe and then immediately cancel because they basically
right.
Yeah,
and we've considered going full subscription, and it's something that is still on my mind. But I don't. And to answer your specific question, we don't treat our month one subscribers any differently than our others in terms of any process flows or how they appear in the model. But really, it's all captured in the drop off and retention from month 0 to month 1,
right?
And or month 1 to month 2 in more simple terms, but just thinking about how we talk about it. But that is the biggest drop off, and it will be for every brand, month 1 to month 2. And so that is captured, and I'm sure we'd see an even bigger drop off if we went 100% subscription only for the folks who would just want to buy and then cancel. But one thing that's been really important for driving that trial into subscription for us, I believe, is our first purchase money back guarantee. And that's something we kind of really started promoting after that three pack sample test didn't really go as we had intended. We want to give people the opportunity to try this product. It's a very different product offering. It's kind of promising you that limitless pill, and if we're not careful, we could seem like we're over-promising. But to your listeners, I would urge them to try it for themselves and see that I think it really does. It does work really well. But so after kind of getting rid of the 3-pack sample, we were like, okay, how do we give people comfort around trying this as a subscription? And the first purchase money back guarantee has been huge. I think a lot of brands have this, but really putting it front and center and talking about it in our like newsletter, sponsorship copy, in just various places, landing pages. It's been important to give people that trust to say, I can try this and get my money back if I don't like it, which is true.
And I'm curious, and when you're doing that initial customer acquisition, are you typically driving from ads, whether it's either it's sponsorships in TikTok or Facebook ads? Are you driving to a landing page that's specific to the product, or are you driving to like the PDP page?
We drive to a landing page just to give us more ability to tinker and test, and that's something we've talked about internally too. We use Unbounce, and their page load speed is superb, and I think that plays a role in the algorithm feedback. And our website has some work to do on speed, and so that's been one of the reasons why we stuck with it. But yeah, it's on Unbounce, and we can iterate, and there's been literally thousands of variants that we've tested in the last 2 years.
Got it. And I'm curious on the retention piece, because when we were talking about growth stalling, is So I think we know, I mean, customer acquisition obviously is a huge piece of continuing to add more customers. But what are things you guys have done on the retention side, and has that been a challenge for you? Because I think the obvious, especially as a finance person, it's the retaining an existing customer is worth a lot more than acquiring a new one.
Totally, it's a huge focus, and we have like an internal thing. We say that if we bankrupt the company by showing love to our customers, then that's the way it went. And so we go out of our way to make the subscriber experience as good as possible. But at the end of the day, I really think that 80% of a customer's decision to, maybe 90% of a customer's decision to either cancel subscription or not is, am I enjoying this product, and am I getting the right amount of it at the right times? And if you're getting it piling up on your front porch, you're going to cancel that thing right away. So the two biggest things that we've done is these continual improvements in the product itself. We can actually see a step change in retention based on one version to another. In particular, every monthly cohort afterwards, has 5 to 10% better retention than the previous version. So that's like the key thing, and that's why we're very focused on continually improving the product. But also the subscription experience is kind of wrapped up in that. And we migrated to recharge SMS last summer, and we've actually left recharge for a Shopify native subscription software company called SKUs. They have a similar SMS solution, and that's been really huge for us. And I noticed it as a customer myself, as a subscriber personally. I was just abroad for my sister's wedding last week in Scotland, and so I got a text that I had another order of Magic Mind. I mean, granted, I've got plenty, but I was able to skip that very easily in less than 10 seconds and not worry about it. And so I think ensuring that your product is worth keeping around for both benefits, taste, all those things, and the subscription experience is super easy to deal with. Those are the two pillars to any good subscription business.
I'm curious, beyond you mentioned you guys are on SKUs now, but then also Unbounce for landing pages. Are there any other key tools you guys have been using, for the cohort analysis and measuring your retention? Are you using a BI tool, or were you using what were some of the different tools you guys use?
Yeah, we actually it's all built in-house. We have a database that we run through like a SQL algorithm basically that buckets our individual line item purchase data into the appropriate cohorts that I can then analyze in spreadsheets. So it's all in the back of spreadsheets, basically with the output that we're getting from that SQL program.
Got it. And I'm also curious, how big's your team today?
We have 4 full-time employees and 6 other part-time folks, single-person agencies, part-time help, and those agencies have people under them, obviously, that we're working with on a daily basis. But it was just me for the first 12 months from a full-time perspective. In the last couple months, we've in my first year, that is, and in the last couple months, we've hired a few others.
That's awesome. I mean, I think the ability to have fractional help, I think it really seems to depend on, I guess, the area of ownership. I think we're seeing increasingly people working with, for example, Klaviyo agencies to own email marketing. I know several D2C brands, though, who've basically given up on agencies for growth. They do it all in-house. They basically realize, especially if you have a VP of growth internally or a growth marketer in-house, it's oftentimes they found, the agencies weren't able to beat their cost of acquisition. I'm sure there's exceptions to that, but actually around acquisition, do you guys do all that in-house? Do you work with, are those the types of things you guys work with agencies for? What are the core competencies that you guys keep in-house?
Yeah. So my co-founder and the founder of the business, James, actually he had the idea and wanted to create Magic Mind as a company with no full-time employees, as all kind of part-time assassins for hire, people who could not be afforded an early stage startup for all of their time, but who could be brought in for maybe 10% of their time with a couple others. And so that was always the vision, and that's kind of built into the DNA of the company. Is everyone we hire has to be very entrepreneurial. And in fact, the first 7, 8 partners, agency or employee or otherwise in the business, all were former founders or co-founders. So our growth marketing team is a one-man agency, and he has a whole team underneath him. But like from our perspective, we've got one person to go through,
right.
One person on our team meetings, and so it feels like we have a full-time hire. So that's been really key to our success, I think, is getting overqualified people that we probably wouldn't be able to otherwise afford as a startup by just working with them part-time and having the right structure in place to make that work.
Got it. No, that's interesting, and I do remember that. It reminds me a bit of Gumroad's model. I don't know how familiar you are with how Gumroads try to build their business, but and even Josh who had founded Baremetrics, and now he's working on another company, maybe. They started from day one trying to build, a bit of a different story with Gumroad, but basically in the current incarnation, only having like fractional employees who otherwise you wouldn't be able to afford because they're, so fucking awesome.
It was great, and I think I was actually brought on because at a certain point, especially in the D2C world, there's just shit that rolls downhill, and like you need someone who's gonna own that, and there are kind of nebulous things that float through that if the responsibility is not well defined, it can go missed. So I don't know if it's possible in the D2C world. Maybe it is. You need some really stellar partners all the way around. And we have that at MagicMind, and we've found that building the team slowly has been a good idea.
And I'm curious, going into just your goals for 2023. We know it's 2022, isn't it? What are you guys focused on? Like, what are your priorities?
We want to get to 10,000 subscribers and be profitable. That's our goal. We actually had our first profitable month recently, and we're working towards making that an every month occurrence.
Awesome.
And the subscription model is a huge part of that. But those are really the North Star metrics that drive everything we do.
Well, I was gonna do like a slow clap. Congratulations.
Well, we're not quite over the hill yet.
Yeah. How do you think about like multiple SKUs? Because I know you guys are sort of unique in that you guys have focused on just a single SKU, so that sort of eliminates opportunities around like cross-selling, upselling, and so like the traditional D2C playbook oftentimes or the OG one was just introducing more products.
Yeah, and that's the route we've gone at Brahmi, and starting with just a lupini bean snack, and then going into Italian dips and spreads, and now launching another product, exciting one soon. So I'm used to that model and very familiar with it. I think the operational complexity cannot be underestimated for what we call SKU proliferation. Like, you need to really be sure that SKU is going to be additive to the business's cash flow when factoring in the working capital requirements of adding more inventory to your balance sheet. And the complexity of that really, it's not a linear path. It's an exponential, I think, in a lot of ways. And so you better have a really good operational mind in there to manage that if you're going to have more than one SKU. But for us, we're not averse to adding more. We think we have a great product that's found product market fit amongst our audience, and we're trying to find new markets for it, if anything, first. But we're open to it. It's just I do have, every time we talk about a new SKU, I'm like, well, it's got to be a sure thing winner, and we should have a clear case that, not just boosting AOV, like does it boost AOV and therefore our cash, monthly cash flow is going to improve because we can order it quickly and get terms, and here's our manufacturing relationship that's going to make this really work. So it needs to be more than just a growth decision to add a SKU, in my opinion.
Got it. That makes sense. Which actually, I think ties back to, I'm curious. You were talking about just how your background in finance and operations and stuff and how all that's played into just you. I mean, you've mentioned models several times in this conversation. Could you share a little bit about like what you've learned and sort of the way that you go about thinking about working capital and maybe strategies for brands specifically who are going, they've found product market fit, and I think especially with what's happening in e-commerce right now, where probably your cash flow and how you're using working capital and just even all the challenges that are that are going to be happening over who knows how long. Anything you learned or suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll just start by saying I think models are awesome, but every model is wrong, and the best thing to do is to always kind of consistently be second guessing your model with back of the envelope math and just gut feelings, and just always listening to that gut feeling. But in using our models and just in focusing and kind of finding the importance of working capital, which we've always known to be true, but just seeing how truly impactful it is, I think it's really kind of the most under-discussed part about D2C and consumer goods businesses in general. It's really impossible to grow quickly without a ton of capital unless you have your working capital figured out. And that takes demonstrating success a lot of times to your vendors and your suppliers, namely your co-man and like your packaging suppliers. So the subscription model has really helped us because with our co-manufacturer, we have consistent orders where our revenue is not doing this every month. It's pretty steady, and so they can kind of bank on us as a customer, and they see our consistency. It gives us leverage in negotiating terms. It gives us leverage in negotiating pricing, and the same goes for all of our suppliers. So and it's also a benefit of the one product focus. But really, everything you can do to get paid sooner and to pay other people later should always be on the mind of every wise, savvy D2C CPG operator.
Got it. So in that way, it was obviously. So you mentioned predictable revenue through subscriptions, which you then effectively were able to use as a way probably to either renegotiate or offset, like effectively like accounts payable or whatever the term would be.
Yeah, just it leads to better relationships with all your suppliers, and the better relationships lead to better negotiating, and it's all a negotiation. It also has led us to be able to find cheap financing, even at an early stage. So we actually use a company called Ampla, formerly known as Gourmet Growth, and I think highly of them. And they are our credit partner, and when they underwrote the business, the subscription online revenue was kind of the only reason why we got the rate that we did. And so you're constantly thinking about not only your working capital terms and your payment terms when you're receiving revenue, but also thinking about ways you can finance expenses, ways you can add positive cash flow just based on your financing line item is huge.
Got it. I'll say on another note, are there any, do you subscribe to multiple products yourself as a consumer? Besides,
I do. I have quite a few actually. Yeah, I mean, I can list them off. I've got Hims, which is doing a good job, hopefully.
Much better than him without. Maybe I should buy some Hims.
Man, I've got more hair now than I had when I was 23, so I'm a big Hims fan. Hims, Quip, Dr. Squatch, Magic Minds, Brahmi, and through Thrive Markets Auto Ship, I subscribe to olive oil, cold brew, and just those two on a monthly basis. I'm trying to think if there are any others. I think those are most of them.
Yeah. I'm curious, are there any experiences that you've had as like in subscribing to these that's either inspired the way that you guys have approached the customer experience within Magic Mind? And like, were there any sort of surprising or delightful or horrible experiences you've had as on the consumer side? Yeah,
I mean, I think the Hims portal experience is somewhat of a North Star for me. When we actually didn't have a portal until March when we switched over to SKU, because the kind of out of the box recharge one was just so off brand and kind of non-functioning at times that we didn't want to put that in front of our customers. And so that's been a bit of a guiding star. I think the text message notifications that I get from Thrive Market are always wonderful. I was before my sister's wedding, I had another good friend get married that I was fortunate to be a best man in Italy. So I've had quite a amazing month. But I got a bunch of olive oil, big olive oil fan, and like I came back and I got a text from Thrive, hey, your olive oil is gonna ship tomorrow, and I was like, oh no, it's not. I don't need that right now. So super easy, in 2 clicks and less than 30 seconds, I'd push that off, and I'll be an olive oil subscriber for them again. I didn't cancel it. I just skipped that one. But that kind of ease and the notifications that they provide are a guiding star for us as well on our SMS side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've spoken to so many brands, and I'm sure you have too, where there's a hesitation of reminding people of upcoming reminders, but as a consumer, it's such a horrible experience, right?
Yeah. That was such an easy choice for us because of that guiding North Star of if giving our customers, if giving our subscribers the best experience is going to be detrimental to us, then so be it. Yeah. And so that was we kind of had a quick discussion about it internally, and we thought, this is going to make our subscribers' lives better. Let's do it. It's a no-brainer. And we saw month 2 to 3, month 2's retention came down a bit as kind of people might not have gotten through their first month, but every month after that, it improved. And I think that's just based on the flexibility of being able to now access subscription pricing, but in a way that you don't feel the anxiety. I think there's kind of an anxiety about a subscription sometimes, I got to get through this, I got another one on the way. But by making it super easy to manage that process of skipping or changing the date, it's kind of removes that anxiety. I think is critical.
Actually, you just made me think of one thing. I've had this conversation a few times where I joke e-commerce is the only subscription you can have where you can skip a month, right? So when we think of B2B SaaS, you can't go into Disney Plus or Netflix and skip a month. And so my assumption is the predictability around recurring revenue, while it's there is predictability, I'm curious, do you have insight into how often or how frequently people are skipping, and how does that affect the actual, call it, predictable revenue?
Yeah, I don't have insight actually to a particular customer's behavior. I think it's very different for people. Some folks travel a lot. Some folks are religious about taking theirs every morning. But in terms of changing the way we can forecast the business, it really doesn't, because we're looking at cohorts, looking at averages. It's kind of a portfolio theory, and the noise balances out. There really is no noise, and so it doesn't make our life any more difficult at all.
Got it. No, that's interesting. And to your point of when you're looking at an aggregate, it that would make sense. I was trying to think of, is there anything else that's top of mind for you, things that you guys have experienced, or things that you've learned? And so the typical person listening to the podcast is a D2C operator who sells subscriptions, has product market fit, and is focused on growth. They're probably north of a couple $1 million a year in recurring revenue, trying to get to 10, and then beyond that. I think any recommendations or things that you've seen or questions that you guys have asked yourself that have helped sort of dig into sort of unlocking your own challenges while scaling the business?
Yeah, and I'd say that we're in the same position as all those listeners.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying to do the same thing, and we're probably asking each other a lot of the same questions, asking ourselves a lot of the same questions. For us, a big one that could be its own podcast probably is and one that I've been thinking about a lot, is the benefits versus the pros and cons of Amazon, and distribution and separately, but distribution kind of leading to Amazon resellers. I think there's obviously a ton of latent demand on Amazon. The keyword demand there is the beauty of that platform, and it's powerful. And we've heard some just kind of hearsay figures from Amazon agencies that could be inflating them about the interest in MagicMind on Amazon and the keyword searches that we're getting. They make a huge difference, but we initially were very intentional about not launching on Amazon, just to own the customer experience and own that relationship. And now we're kind of at the point where we're thinking about it, but I wonder about the impact to retention. I wonder about the impact to working capital, having Amazon inventory tied up at FBA warehouses, not being able to turn your inventory nearly as quickly. It definitely would help top line. I have no doubt about that, but my kind of the problem I'm working through in my head is, does it help bottom line? And so that's something I continue to think about, and kind of not something I have an answer for, but just an open-ended question that I've been thinking about a lot recently.
Well, I'll say to listeners, if you've navigated this, and if you have any sort of suggestions or experience, maybe reach out to William, and it could be a good conversation.
Yeah, and our plan, by the way, is to test it in Canada and just see what it does to our website and to retention there. So that's the easy route. The bold route would be to just say, let's just go for it and try it in the U.S.
Yeah.
But we're still thinking about it.
Well, awesome, man. I would say, unless there's anything else, I know we try to keep these short and sweet. I was like, one question I like to ask is there, do you have a big ask? Like, is there one thing that you're looking for that could transform your business, or even transform things for you personally, that you could put out there into the ether, and hopefully someone can help?
I don't think so. I think the kind of inclination to look for that silver bullet is dangerous. I think you need to be constantly advancing the ball in all directions. We like to say, shoot bullets and then cannonballs. So be testing, and then once we find a test that works, go all in on it. And the great thing about D2C is that there never will be a silver bullet. It's always going to be, and anything that is won't be one for long. So it's kind of divorcing yourself from that anguish of that search has been important for me. And I like to also say, you got to have 3-month trailing average emotions in this business. You gotta kind of be zen about things.
I like that.
And it's important. And I think I don't have a big ask, and I think personally that not having the ask has led me to have the peace that I seek on a personal level. So if anyone has any feedback or advice, I'm always open ears. And I think that's how we got connected, is just kind of that openness to new connections and advice. So always open to it, but not seeking it with my every breath. And that's kind of helped me a lot personally as an operator.
Well, awesome, man. Thanks so much for coming on. And I don't know if there's anywhere that you're active online. I think I took a look, and it's mostly retweets of MagicMind.
Yeah, not very. Might become a thread guy someday, but I'm just busy working. So you can find me on Twitter, and I might become active at some point. But for now, you'll get some all the good MagicMind stuff that comes through me.
Cool. Well, awesome, man. Thanks so much. And maybe we can have another podcast talking about the Amazon stuff at some point. Maybe once you have either a point of view, or maybe we could bring on a couple people on the show who've done it, and you guys could talk it through. That might be an interesting sort of roundtable.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I'd be into that.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.